Let's move on. From the power space, we're putting the spotlight now on banking. Let's first listen in to what the RBI governor had to say on the expectation of this draft circular on the ECL framework. There has been a wide consultation on this. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das earlier this month on the sidelines of the CNBC TV18 Global Leadership Summit said that the introduction of the ECL framework will mark the transformation of how assets get classified. Listen in.
With regard to the ECL framework, that is expected credit loss framework, even after issuing a discussion paper and receiving stakeholder comments, which we got examined by an external working group, we now propose to issue a draft circular for implementation of ECL. So the draft will be followed by issuance of a final circular. Again, we will get comments, and we are adopting this very careful approach because it, the introduction of the ECL framework marks a major transformation in the way the assets, the stressed assets or the buildup of stress or the way the assets get classified.
Okay, so this is another major move, and that's coming. And it's a move that's coming because anyway, the accounting standards are changing. And as we move to the next standard, ECL is going to be a requirement. We have with us Mr. Sunil Mehta, Chief Executive at the Indian Banks Association. Mr. Mehta, thank you very much for joining in. Great to have you, sir. Now, this discussion has been on for many months, right? The first concept on ECL was floated, I think, much earlier this year. And the whole concept deals with the fact that you need to start recognizing stress before the delinquencies happen, before the delays in payments start happening. So now at an industry body level, what's the thought? Is the Indian banking sector ready for it? And what could be the immediate sort of increase in, say, credit cost, provisioning? What will the numbers look like once this is rolled out?
So good morning. And let me first tell you that I have already demitted the office of IBA. So I'm participating in this process as in my individual capacity. That is, it's not it's my individual views. Another thing, we have been in discussion with the RBI, and we have been in discussion within the industry about the expected credit loss and its impact on the industry. And what we understand from the entire ecosystem is that the ecosystem is gearing it for it. And this will make the provisioning requirement more realistic, because this is based on the expected credit loss, will be more realistic based on the empirical data and the time series data which the banking system has on the losses on a particular type of assets. So with cases, the thumb rule approach will go away, and the ECL approach will step in, and that will really improve the balance sheet transparency of the banking system. So anyway, the move in long run will be strengthening the banking system, and the system is gearing up to adopt it.
Sir, again, the question is, what would it mean? If we look at some of the views, ICRA put out a note on this earlier, and ICRA said that this whole transitioning to Ind AS, the impact on core capital for banks could be as much as 300 to 400 basis point, including the ECL transition itself. So it's overall Ind AS plus ECL. Could it be that high? What could be the impact on capital requirements? Some more color on this.
So as regards capital requirement, if you analyze the data of the banking system, I think most of the banks already have, especially the major system already have capital adequacy 200 basis point more than what is required and prescribed under the norms. So that much cushion is already available. As regards the transition, I think Governor has also said it very clearly that this is a phase in which it will be put up on the discussion papers, views will be invited from the stakeholders, and this will be implemented in the phases. So I think the system is already geared up, banking system is already well capitalized, and this is the right time for transition to LCR system. So because ultimately banks are in a position to withhold their existing capital positions, support the ECL transition, and make the balance sheet more robust in the times to come.
So, Mr. Mehta, you're saying that, ECL, this is a good time, and given where we are in the credit cycle, perhaps a good time to make this this transition. Just to complete this point, and then we'll ask you about the new LCR rules as well. From an operational standpoint, what changes for a bank once you move to ECL? Because you don't wait for a delay in payment. You have to start recognizing that stress earlier. So, what changes operationally on the ground, if at all?
So basically, the historical data which banks have about each segment of their credit book, they have a historical data that what is the expected credit loss in each case, and depending upon the various parameters for every individual asset, the expected credit loss can be identified in advance. And because multiplication probability factor is already available in the banking system, and that will help them to provide it for the way RBI prescribes for provisioning norms even for standard assets. Same way, the provisioning norm for the existing standard assets who have not fallen into NPA, the bankers will have to start making slight provisions keeping on their historical data in mind. That will help them in strengthening their balance sheet in times to come. And this transition will require a good set of data with the banking system. Till they don't have their own set of banks' data, they will have to rely on the industry averages which are available, and that will convert into the probable capital or the provisioning requirement for individual segment of the credit. This will facilitate two more things. One thing, because the provisioning will be on the expected credit loss, bankers will definitely become extra quality conscious, and quality consciousness will definitely help them in building a better loan book.
Okay, all right. Running out of time, sir. So we'll leave it on that note for today. Thank you very much for joining in and giving us some perspective on the rollout of the expected credit loss framework, which is going to take place pretty soon.